What up everybody, it's me Blake316 with an official review comparison of the PlayStation 4 controller versus the Xbox One controller. I do have the PlayStation 3 controller here as well as the Xbox 360 controller here, so people when they hear my complaints of these controllers and they just assume that I don't know what I'm talking about, it's kind of me letting them know I have both the previous consoles, so I do know the differences between the old controllers and the new ones, because some people will be like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Here's my proof. With that being said, let's get straight into the comparison reviews of these two controllers. And I'm going to start off with the PlayStation 4 controller. When I get into this controller, I'm going to let people know this. I didn't like the PlayStation 1 controller, I didn't like the PlayStation 2 controller, and I absolutely hated the PlayStation 3 controller. I don't like these trigger buttons, and I hated the analog sticks on all the PlayStation controllers. And I'm not a huge fan of the D-pad. Which is, with that being said, you know, me not liking the PlayStation 1 controller or the 2, pretty much, like, I'm not going to like the 3 because it's the same as that controller, and I did not like these upgrades made. But, heading into the PlayStation 4 controller, I definitely didn't have high expectations, being that I didn't like the previous consoles. With that being said, I absolutely love this controller. This controller is a pretty damn good controller. I've seen other people doing reviews on this controller, and they said how amazing it was and how great it was, but at the same time, I didn't really believe these reviews because, one, I either thought they were PlayStation fanboys, two, they were PlayStation fanboys that didn't want to admit it. In reality, they really were. With that being said, I have this controller myself, and people know I'm far from a PlayStation fanboy, and I really like this controller. For starters, the analog sticks are by far the best analog sticks on any PlayStation controller. They feel really good. These trigger buttons feel really great. The D-pad is pretty much the same as far as these buttons, but you know, the main complaints of the previous controller, trigger and analogs, they definitely fixed all those problems. One complaint I have with this controller is I feel it's a bit longer this way. I would like to have seen the controller more compact this way for some reason. I just feel like it's really a long and wide controller. Another complaint, this touchpad, I really don't see a purpose of it. I mean, maybe there'll be reasons in the future, but as far as right now, it kind of gets in my way. And when I say it gets in the way, I think it's these placement of the buttons of the share and options button. Sometimes I go to press option, I hit the touchpad. It's kind of annoying. But the controller feels really good. Another complaint is it's kind of light, but at the same time, it's not too light. I do like a heavy controller, and this PlayStation 3 controller is too light for me. I like a heavy controller. But with that being said, this controller definitely feels really good. I mean, I'm really surprised on how much I do like this controller. I wasn't expecting a lot, but it's a good controller. Now let me get into the Xbox One controller. And before I talk about this controller, I'm going to say this here now. The Xbox 360 is pretty much my favorite gaming controller of all time. Right next to the Nintendo GameCube. I thought the GameCube had a really good controller as well. With this Xbox 360 controller, I love the analog sticks, I love the trigger buttons, I love the weight to the controller. I have no complaints about this controller. A lot of people complain about the D-pad. I don't really care. I think it's decent. I mean, it could be worse, and I'll explain that. But I really like this controller. It's really good. Now, to get into the Xbox One controller, it's definitely getting used to because I love this Xbox 360 controller so much. I mean, Microsoft could have brought this controller to the Xbox One and I would have had no complaints. I mean, Sony does it all the time. With that being said, I'm going to start off. This controller feels kind of light, and it's surprising because it actually has batteries in it. And that's another complaint, like Microsoft, get it together. Give us rechargeable controllers already. The batteries are going here. They're hidden pretty well in the controller. There's not a bulge like an Xbox 360 controller. So that's definitely good that it doesn't stick out. But at the same time, I think that bulge gave the controller extra weight. Like I said, I do like a heavy controller. Another thing, I don't know if it's just me, but these analog sticks feel really high on the controller. Like, I feel like my thumbs are really high off the controller. It's definitely getting used to. I'm assuming this probably feel really good with fighting games. Right now, it's just something I'm not used to. And it's kind of funny, like, Microsoft spent millions of dollars in development for this controller. And you would think, I really want to know how much Sony spent in theirs, because they have a great controller. But the D-pad, I'm not liking it too much. I mean, I think the 360 D-pad is better. The home button feels good. These menu buttons, X, Y, A, B, feel good. Another complaint is the trigger buttons feel really good, but these RB and LB buttons, I don't know, I'm just not used to them yet. They kind of feel like the Ouya trigger buttons right in a bit. Um, Sounds like I'm really not liking this controller. I don't think it's as bad as I'm making it seem. I just had such high expectations, being that I love the Xbox 360 controller as much as I did. One thing I really like is, I'm gonna be honest, I hate rumbling in my controller. I mean, it was cool on the Nintendo 64 with the rumble pack, but I'm totally over it. It annoys me. Sometimes it hurts my hands. I just hate the rumbling. But in this controller, the triggers actually rumble. This is really cool, especially with games where you first person shooters or any type of games that you really have to use the trigger buttons. That extra vibration in these trigger buttons give you a totally different new and feel to like this your gaming experience. It definitely threw me off the first time I felt it. I was like, holy crap, the triggers are vibrating. And when I mean the triggers, I literally mean the trigger buttons, not this part of the controller, but right here. That's definitely a good and cool feature that definitely surprised me when I had the controller in my hand. So, but that being said, I wish the controller would have felt a little bit more heavier. The D-pad, Microsoft still didn't get it right. But I'm definitely getting used to the controller. And I like it. It's not a bad controller whatsoever. Just that the Xbox 360 was such a good controller in my opinion. The PlayStation 4 controller, I think I had such low expectations that being that it's as good as it is, I'm completely surprised. And I'm really liking this controller. But I'm not really going to say which controller I like better. I mean, you can go off my review and comparison, and maybe you can come up with your own idea. But it's me, Blake316, is doing a comparison review of the PlayStation 4 controller and the Xbox One controller. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, Facebook, as well as Instagram at Blake316. All the links will be in the description. Also follow me on twitch.tv at Blake316. Make sure to subscribe for future videos. Till next time. Got some gaming to do. Got those video gamer problems.